This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, welcome to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. I am Sergio Castro, your instructor for this demo on the OCI load balancer. Let's log in into our tenancy. I pre-created two web servers. Here they are in these two tabs. These two web servers will be the backend servers for the backend set of the load balancer. And as you can see, this is web server 1. The last octet of the IP address is 192. And here it is. And the other one is 224. The only difference between them is the server number. This so you can identify in what server you are once we configure the load balancer. Let's go ahead and do that. In order for you to find load balancing, click on the top left hamburger icon menu, scroll down to networking, and find load balancers right here. And click on the Create Load Balancer. We are going to be creating one in our testing compartment. And select the option. In this case, is the OCI Load Balancer. Click Create Load Balancer. Now give it a name. I'm going to call this My Web Servers LB. Now it's a public load balancer. This is a public-facing load balancer, so we will be selecting the public type. Now the IP address will be ephemeral. This means that OCI will be giving us the public IP address. Now you can go ahead and reserve one, and this will be another demo. Now pay attention to the shapes right here. As you can see, it's pre-selected the flexible shape. This is the legacy account. That's why there's another option, the dynamic shape. This option is going to be going away the 11th of May, 2023. If you have a newer account, this option is not there. Now the bandwidth, I'm going to select from 10 megabits all the way to 400 megabits per second. That will be our shape. Now the VCN, I pre-created one, and this is the public subnet for our public-facing load balancer. Now the backends, I'm going to be selecting the backend servers based on the round robin option. Now let's go ahead and add our backends. These are the ones that we pre-created. And now the health check. I'm going to be using the HTTP protocol, port 80 for the health check. And for the time being, I will skip the secure socket layer, click on next. Now my listener, you can give it any name that you want. I'm going to call this listener. There we go. Now these web servers are using port 80. So I'm going to be selecting port 80, HTTP, my protocol. And this is it. I'm going to skip the error logs, click submit, and it will take like about 2 minutes for your load balancer to be configured. So the load balancer has been configured successfully, and as you can see, my servers are operating normally. There is no issue with them. The health check is fine. And here's the shape that we selected, and this is the public IP address of the load balancer. So let's copy all 4 bytes of the public IP address. Copy it. Now I'm going to open a web browser and go into my load balancer. And there it is. And it landed on server 1, but if I refresh, it's got to go into server 2, server 1, server 2. Remember that this is round robin. And the load balancer is operating as it should. So this completes our demo. Hello, and welcome to our second demo on the OCI load balancer. Today, we are creating another load balancer, this time using a reserved IP address. Let's go ahead and log into our console. This is the previously created load balancer. It's really similar. Click on the Create Load Balancer, select your load balancer option, and going to leave the blank name today. Type remains public. Now, the only difference is here we're selecting the reserved IP address. The minute that you click on it, it will give you more options here, as you can see. So you can either select an existing reserved IP address. This is the only one that I have. As you can see, I properly named it for LB demo. Now you can create a new one right here and then give it a name, select the value in what compartment you want it, and who's going to be the provider. Besides Oracle, you can add additional providers. In this case, we are going to be selecting a pre-configured IP address. The shape option remains the same. This is going to be smaller, 200 megabits. Here we go. Same VCN, same subnet, same policy, same servers. You can do that. You can have several load balancers with the same backend sets. Also, the same policy. And I'll skip SSL again. Listener will be on HTTP. Then you click on next and you submit. So the same process. The only difference is that you're going with the reserved IP address, and this IP address will outlive the load balancer if you decide to delete the load balancer. Okay, as you can see, everything is up and running as expected, and this is our public IP address, the one that we reserved. Again, if you copy it and open another browser right here, it should work with no issues. And there it is, landed on server 1, server 2, server 1. Now, if we go back and terminate this, there we go. So this is in the process of terminating. Okay, so the load balancer has been deleted. If I refresh here, it's going to keep on searching until it times out. So I can go back and create a new load balancer here and reuse that same IP address. So that's the benefit. Here it is again. This is still trying to search for it, and it will continue to do so until it times out. So this completes our demo. Hello, welcome to OCI, to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Today we're seeing a demonstration on the private load balancer. So let's go ahead and log into the console. You can see I'm already in my tenancy, and I have 3 additional tabs here. So the first one, I would like to show you that I have 2 database systems. They are Oracle databases, and here they are. This is the first one, called this first, and the second database is called second database system. So on the first one, if you scroll down, you're going to be able to see the IP address of the compute node, and the same thing with the second database system. Now, these are the nodes that are going to be serving as the backend servers for the backend set of our private load balancer. So let's go ahead and configure our load balancer. So it is very similar. Find your load balancer under networking. And here you will see the previously created one for the first demo. So now we are going to click create the load balancer, select the OCI load balancer. Now I'm going to call this DBLB, database load balancer. This is private, so make sure that you select the private load balancer. Notice how the IP address fields go away, or the options for public IP address go away once you select private. Now it's going to be flexible, and this time I'm going to go to 300 megabits per second. Now if you keep scrolling down, you're going to find your virtual cloud network. This time we're selecting the private subnet. and you click on next. Now, here's a little bit different because the policy is going to be round robin. However, the backends, I'm not going to add them right now because if you click add the backends, it only offers the ones that are from compute instances, not the compute nodes of the database. So this is a little bit different because we are working with the Oracle database. We're going to select the appropriate port, which is 1521. And I previously enabled the permissions on the security list of that virtual cloud network on the private subnet. So now I click next, and this is my DB listener. And it's not any one of these ports, not at the layer 7, but the layer 4 one. And it is 15. I want to make sure that that port is particularly healthy because that's the one that my load balancer is communicating with the database. And the error logs is going to be turned off. And that's basically what you need for creating the load balancer. Remember that we still need to add the backend set. And that's why the health check doesn't have a backend set to check on. So that's why you're going to get this message right here that's indicating that it's not complete. So I'm going to pause the recording and wait for this to come back up, and then we will add the backend set. Hello, we're back. As you can see, the database load balancer is operational. However, this message here persists. So if you scroll down, you will see the backend sets. If you click on it, and if you open your backend set, you will see that there's an option for the backends, and currently it has 0. So you add the backends. And here, rather than selecting a compute instance, you enter the IP address of your backend set. So let's go ahead and read that, and we'll retrieve it from here. So this is the first one. Now remember that this is port 1521. And then the weight is going to be 1. So both of them will have the equal weight. Then you add. And then you add the other one. Also, select the IP address. Go ahead and retrieve it from the node. And also port 1521 with equal weight. You add this. And right now it's still pending. Before it had the incomplete status. So the other backend is in the process of being added. So what I'll do right now is I'm going to pause the recording and come back when this completes. As you can see, the overall health is okay. So the load balancer is communicating with the compute nodes of the database over port 1521 with no issues whatsoever. So now the load balancer can distribute traffic across 2 databases. So this completes this demo. See you in the next one. Hello, welcome to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And I'm happy that you're here because we are seeing the demo on the network load balancer. Let's go ahead and access our OCI console. And here I am. These are the 2 previously created load balancers that we did on the other demos. And I also have my database, 2 of them, Oracle Database Systems. And if you open them, you will see the compute node for those databases. And as you can see, there's no public IP address, only private IP address. So our listener this time on the network load balancer is going to be port 22. This is the second node. Let's go ahead and create our load balancer. So you select the correct type. This type is network load balancer. And let's go ahead and fill in the blanks and make our selections. So the name will be simply NOB. We are selecting a public load balancer because the listener is going to be port 22, and we're going to use the network load balancer to SSH into the node of the database systems. The address type that we're going to be selecting is the previously created reserved IP address. So here it is. We called it for LB demo. Now notice that in the regards with the shape, there's no option for you to make a selection. And this is by design. The network load balancer is always a flexible shape. And the bandwidth oscillates between 10 megabits and 8 gigs. The values for the networking are the correct ones. This is our virtual cloud network, and this is the public subnet. Click on next. And our listener is going to be on port 22, as previously indicated, for TCP. So we are going to be very specific and type port 22 for the listener. And there it is. Now the backend set. We need the compute nodes for the database systems. So if we click here, it only lists the compute instances that you create for virtual machines, not the node for the databases. So we will be adding those later once the network load balancer is created. Now the health check policy, because this is a database, I want to make sure that the database port is operating correctly. So I'm going to be using 1521 and click on next. Validate my results or my options and click create the network load balancer. Now, while this is being created, I want to highlight something here. Notice this banner, always free. So this network load balancer is always free. You don't have to pay a dime for it. Every single trial, every single account comes with one always free network load balancer. Here, the status is indicating that it's in the creating state. Now the IP address is highlighting both of them, the public and the private. Now I was mentioning that the shape is flexible by design because you don't configure it. It doesn't list here that it's flexible. All of them for the network load balancer are flexible. Now you can see that the status is active, the state is active, and the overall health came as okay. So why is this if we don't have a backend set yet? Well, we do have the backend set, but we don't have the backend servers. This overall health is indicating that what we have so far does not have an alarm. And because we don't have a backend server, it's not generating any alarm. So that's why the status is okay. But if you click on the load balancer, we can go ahead and take a deeper dive. Click on backend set. Here still is indicating that everything's okay. But when you click on the backend set, you will see that the status is unknown. And here it is. So it's unknown because there is no backend server. So let's go ahead and add the backends. As previously indicated, we are going to be using the IP addresses. Let's go ahead and retrieve them. Here's the first one. Port 22 is the correct port that we want, and the weight is going to be 1. Here you click add another backend, retrieve the IP address, copy, and paste right here. Now you add the backends, and this will take a little while. So I'm going to pause the recording and come back when it completes. It completed, and now the overall health for the backend servers is okay. This means that our database compute nodes are working perfectly fine on port 1521 for both of them. Our listener is port 22, so we can go ahead and SSH into our load balancer. But first, let's go ahead and retrieve the IP address. Here it is. Copy, and I'm going to open PuTTY. And here's PuTTY. load, and it's going to land on one of the compute nodes. Let's see which one it is. And here it is. It landed on the second one. If we try it again, it should land on the first one. Again, the policy is tuple is the tuple 5. If we open the backend set, and if you open it, it's the 5 tuple hash. So there it is. Let's go ahead and open PuTTY again. That sound indicates that indeed it's the first one. So this completes the demo. I hope that it was of value to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next lesson. Thank you very much.